and gentlemen, moving on. Up next, we have a panel discussion on agri-tech and food security, resilient harvest to global tables, forging India's agri-vision 2047. And now I take immense pride to introduce our speakers, our panelists for the session. Please help me welcome Dr. Tarun Shirdhar, Director General, Indian Chamber of Food and Agriculture, ICFA. So may I please invite you on the stage. Please join us in our panel. Thank you. Very, very warm welcome to all our panelists, to all our speakers. All right. Taking a moment to invite our panelist, our first speaker for the session coming ahead, Dr. Tarun Sridhar, Director General, Indian Chamber of Food and Agriculture. May I please call you, sir? Join us. Inviting our next speaker, Mr. Simon, Country Divisional Head, Crop Sciences, Division of Bayer for India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. May I please invite Mr. Simon joining us? Very, very pleased to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. We have our panelist joining us. Very, very warm welcome. Very happy to have you here. We have Mr. Pranav Doshi, Founder Director, Gujarat Agri Infrastructure Mega Food Park. Very warm welcome. Mr. Abhay Parnikar, Chief Executive Officer, Godrej Foods. Shashank Kumar, Co-Founder and CEO, DHAT, and moderator for the session, Dr. Dinesh Chauhan, CEO and Head of Agribusiness Innovation Platform. Very, very warm welcome to all our panelists. Let's give a big hand to all our panelists and our moderator.
Good evening to all of you. Myself, Dr. Dinesh Chauhan. I'm CEO and Head for Agribusiness Innovation and Nutrition Program at ICRISAT. We have a very wonderful panel of experts in this session, and I am sure that you will be having a lot of insights after this session. So today, the theme of this session is Resilient Harvest to Global Tables. And I have with me Dr. Tarun Sridhar, one of the senior ex-IAS officer, Secretary Government of India with me. We have Mr. Simon, who is from Bayer Crop Science. I have with my another colleague, Mr. Abhay. He is the CEO from Godrej Foods. We have Mr. Pranav. Again, he is the CEO from Gujarat Food Park. And another panelist, Mr. Shashank Kumar, who is CEO and founder of DHAT, will be joining us. So today in this panel, we will be discussing largely around how India's agriculture will be helping us to reach to 1 trillion economy by 2047 as Viksit Bharat. And we will be focusing on how technologies like AI, precision farming, and regenerative agriculture models, etc., and post-harvest technologies, etc., can help us to reach to that. So what we are going to do, I will have a very first common question with all the panelists on the basis of their experience in their area of expertise. I would like them to actually kick off with the initial question. And the first question for all the panelists from my side is, what are the challenges and opportunities which you see in the sector which you have spent to achieve 1 trillion economy by 2047. So how you see the potential challenges and opportunities in this sector, in your sector? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to open the panel discussion. However, when I look in front of me, I find that obviously enthusiasm at the end of the day is waning. And what comes to my mind as the first thought is that the biggest challenge before us is how to make agriculture and the food production sector sexy and glamorous and attractive so that people get involved in this. Now, food is glamorous and attractive only when it is cooked and served as a cuisine. But when it comes to production of the basic food items, the raw material by the farmers, I obviously find that probably there's not much awareness about it or not much enthusiasm about it. Having said that, let me, before dwelling upon how I view the future challenges and opportunities, just to very briefly take you to the past. At the time of independence, our entire food production sector, which is synonymous with the agriculture sector, was derided as ship-to-mouth agriculture. We were heavily dependent upon subsidized imports given to us under certain very humiliating conditions, and that is how we fed our population with the basic food grains. We were also derided as a basket case agriculture economy. But very happy to note that today, when we look back, we find that agriculture and food production has been one of the biggest successes of modern India and independent India. Today, we are one of the biggest in the world in terms of either at the top or near the top in production of each and every agricultural commodity. And now people are talking about India as the bread basket of the world. And slowly and gradually, we are going to emerge as the world's food superpower. Now, having given that optimistic note, one of the biggest challenges which faces us is a huge dichotomy between our absolute production and productivity. While we are huge and the biggest, or one of the biggest in every commodity in terms of production, we are probably the lowest or somewhere at the bottom in terms of productivity. Now, just visualize even a marginal increase in productivity from the bottom to one or two ladders up would make huge difference as far as absolute production is concerned. And once our productivity increases, the economies of the scale and the simple economics would come out, would come into play. The farmer with lesser input would be generating a greater output. So it would also align with our vision of doubling farmers' income. So my first thing would be the biggest challenges and the opportunity is enhancement in productivity. And from where we stand in productivity, we can only go up. Second issue is while agriculture itself is appears to be very distant in terms of the importance given to it by the general public, by the governance system, livestock is still relegated to the margins. Now, 39% of our agriculture is livestock and fish. 31% is livestock, 8% is fish, 39%. And by the year 2047, which is the Viksit Bharat 100 years of independence, this percentage contribution by the livestock and fishery sector combined together is going to cross 50%. So, real emerging and the sunrise sectors in terms of enhancement of agriculture is livestock and fisheries. Today, also, if you remove livestock and fisheries from the agriculture GDP, it would plummet to less than 2%. Whereas agriculture has been growing somewhere around 3% plus minus a few percentage point 0.5 plus 0.5 minus. The entire gamut of livestock and fishery sector has been growing at above 6% consistently. So livestock sector which and fishery sector put together are going to be the real heroes as far as the development of agriculture is concerned. So the challenges and opportunities I see is number one, enhancement of productivity. Productivity is the single element around which all our strategic initiatives, policies should revolve. And second is give livestock and fishery sector its due place. Today also, the biggest agriculture commodity in this country is milk. Our dairy is bigger in value than the combined value of wheat and paddy. And the largest agricultural export commodity is fish. We are exporting roughly 65,000 crore rupees worth of fish. It is the biggest agricultural commodity export, more than basmati rice. So that is what I would say the greatest challenges as also opportunities for future are. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarunji. I would like to ask Simon, like according to you, what would be the single biggest challenge and opportunity for 1 trillion economy by 2047, according to you?
You see, let me start with the opportunity, and it really excites me, right? When you think of the realization that Viksit Bharat in 2047 will only take place if rural growth literally outpaces average growth of the country, then that should align the stars. And that's what I'm looking for. Everything you said is right? We are, in essence, underproductive while having the opportunity in the country with the vast agriculture areas to literally produce any crop at scale. We're doing it today already, but we're probably not doing it to the effect that it really adds to the economy of the country as it could. There's a lot of talk about climate change, etc., which is true. Again, the advantage that we have is that we have so many agroclimatic zones that adaptation actually works in a country like India. So I'm very, very positive about India and its opportunities, provided, and this is where my concerns lie, we really are bold. And my concerns are that we are too careful, too slow, potentially also too afraid to grasp new technologies. We have 140 million farmers that would benefit from AI like anything. But it means that they need to have a resilient cropping system, a resilient growth system, where we currently deprive ourselves of opportunities as well. You want to build upon the best possible technology and not make up for all the incapacities that we partly have in agriculture. And that's where I think we need to take steps forward. We need to take some very, very clear decisions to say, hey, this is our vision for agriculture in Viksit Bharat. And then I'm sure we'll have a centenary which is going to blow all our minds.
Okay, so that was very useful insight. Now I will come to Mr. Abhay. You coming from food processing sector and heading Godrej Foods. According to you, what you foresee as a single one biggest opportunity and single biggest challenge in reaching to this milestone? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Dinesh. It's a pleasure to be here. The first point I would make is regarding what Tarunji said, how do we make agriculture sexy and glamorous? So I represent a part of a company and that part of the value chain who's also partly responsible for that. So I represent a couple of consumer brands as part of Godrej Foods. We have a brand called Godrej Yummies, which is frozen value chain and in the frozen snacks segment. So we would like to make food brands bigger and sexier, and hence I think more acceptable to consumers so that they see the value of agriculture. Having said that, I think the biggest opportunity, the way where we sit, the what we see in front of us is uh, nutrition in India. We became calorie secure, but being nutrition secure, I think that's the clear opportunity going forward. The world consumes about 20 kilos of protein in a year. Uh, Indians, on an average, it's about 4 to 5 kg. Now, that's a very large gap. We cannot call ourselves a developed economy if we are simultaneously not sort of taking care of the nutrition aspect. And like Tarunji said, I think the livestock industry has to play a pivotal role in that. So while he was coming from the side of farmers' productivity, I the part of the ecosystem I represent and the part of the ecosystem that can make a huge difference is on the value addition side. Now, how do you, whatever is produced, how do you add value to it? And hence, the one big opportunity that remains is value added protein, is how we see it in the years to come, will be a very big opportunity. The challenge partly it connects to this, but also to the broader, other than even the livestock or protein sector, the challenges that we see as from the vantage point we occupy is creating a infrastructure, a cold chain infrastructure, which reduces the post harvest or post production losses. And not just so, in perhaps in some of the metros and tier 1 cities we figured that out, but how do we figure that out in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities? And to Simon's point, how do we take it beyond that so that that value addition can truly get to the value to the farmers? So that's what I would say, value added protein being the biggest opportunity, and creating a cold chain infrastructure and a supply chain that reduces post harvest losses being the biggest challenge in front of us.
Thank you. So a lot of interesting insights are coming here, like right from increasing the productivity to increasing the income of the farmers in the rural ecosystem, and also as Mr. Abhay pointed out that protein uptake and improvement or investment in infrastructure for post harvest to prevent post harvest losses. I will come to you, Mr. Pranav. Can you just tell us what, according to you and your sector, will be the critical things both in terms of challenges and opportunities? Yeah.
So I represent the food infrastructure sector more or less, but also automatically food processing has become part of that journey. For infrastructure sector, the challenges are typically, I think, the greatest, I think, opportunity right now is that there is immense growth possible. Food processing sector itself has been growing at 22% YOY for so many years, and I think it still continues to grow at 20 plus percentage. Uh, so there's huge lot of opportunity, but there is also a viability gap because the newcomers in the business can afford so much and cannot afford so much. So there is a need for consistent government policy to support infrastructure. There has been a slight gap in that for last, I think, last 4 or 5 years. I'm sure we'll see changes there. Uh, Other than that, we are so helping the sexy part of the business and doing food processing. Other than that, I think the opportunity for food processors is productivity. Once productivity comes, India is processing food at around 8 to 9%. There's a humongous opportunity because worldwide, large countries produce 60 or 70% of processed food. We only do 8 or 9%. So there's a very big gap there. There's also a gap because there's lots of food wastage, which we can prevent through infrastructure. But the advantage that, the benefits for the food processing industry is that we are able to get cheap material whenever there is glut, but that itself is a challenge for the agriculturist. And so my question to, the panelists here would include what would happen if the productivity really goes to where we want it to go? Unless and until we process at least 30 to 40% of the food, we are really going to be in troublesome territory. There is one of the biggest challenges I see for Viksit Bharat at 2047, and especially the agriculture is there. Food processors are going to make good if they're able to manage their brand, but agriculturists will struggle, is what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. So very interesting insight coming here from all the panelists. Now I would like to invite Mr. Sashank Kumar. Sashank, we welcome you to this panel. As we were all discussing, like very common question here, like to achieve the 1 trillion economy in agriculture for Viksit Bharat by 2047. According to you, what would be the two important criteria or major criteria for as a challenges which you see, and also as a single most opportunity to achieve this in your domain of work? Yeah.
So thank you. Thanks for having me, and sorry for the delay. I think in agri, challenges and opportunities coexist, and that's the reason I think we all are here in this space. In the context of Dehat, I think the same lens we carry, right? That wherever we see or we have seen historically gap in the value chain, whether in the pre-harvest side or the post-harvest side, there exactly basically we built or we designed our intervention. And more importantly, I think as an enterprise, as an innovation, we always see pre-harvest and post-harvest as a part of same value chain. So again, based on experience of scaling our full stack approach, short answer to your question, and again, I'll go for each of the segment. On the post-harvest side, I see huge, humongous opportunities on the export side. The climate change is not a common phenomena for India. It's a universal problem for the globe. And in that context, entire world is looking at India as a reliable source of food, primarily because of the diverse agroclimatic zone we have. So, and again, if you see last 4 5 years, agri export from India, it just got doubled to more than almost $50 billion just in last 4 5 years. I strongly feel that it's just a beginning. So export in general is a huge opportunity going forward on the post harvest side, and it's and some related segment, exactly what sir was mentioning, is the food processing. And why I am saying food processing is an opportunity, because now probably the farming practices in India, basically it's slowly steadily it started getting aligned with the commercial demand, right? And obviously, this is all the outcome of digitization. It's all the outcome of backward integration, the entire ecosystem, improved physical or digital connectivity, infrastructure, and all those things, right? So the short answer: export and food processing on the post-harvest side. On the pre-harvest side, considering again, we based on purely our own experience of operating across 12, 13 states with almost 5 million farmers, selling them number of brands of seed, fertilizer, crop protection, nutrition, and everything. But I strongly feel that this is a point of inflection when we see the behavioral change at a farmer level in terms of their purchasing pattern, right? So not just seed replacement ratio and all, but again, farmers, they are also looking for high quality agricultural input. So opportunity is that, again, we all know, and Simon is here, right? I'm sure all of us would agree that almost, keeping the bulk fertilizer aside, almost 35-40% of agri input market share that doesn't belong to any brand in India. So that's the challenge. And the same is the opportunity, right? I mean, which is going deeper to the farmer level and giving them high quality input, what actually they are seeking in the current context.
Yeah, very great. So I will come back to you with all the activities which your organization has been doing in the past. So I will come back to Dr. Sridhar. Tarunji, you have been into the Indian services, and your last, like you were there as Secretary Animal Husbandry, immense experience in the past. So my very specific question to you would be, what 2 to 3 policy intervention which you feel can be done actually to achieve these milestones, right? So what intervention as a government we need to do in agriculture sector to achieve these milestones? Yeah.
Thank you for this question. You mentioned that I have been secretary in the government. I hope you're not holding that against me. Hmm? his tone conveyed that to me. Okay. Now it's a very difficult to give a mathematical answer as to 1 or 2 policies. You see, first thing is we also need to have an entire different perspective when we approach agriculture. Even today, when we refer to agriculture or farming or farmers, we term it as a livelihood activity. First thing is we need this mindset change that agriculture is also a business. It should be run on business principles, and it is not merely a livelihood activity. It could be a profession or vocation of choice. We have to position is like that. And with the infusion of technology and very glamorous technologies, AI and digitization coming up, and I think time is there that youth can start getting attracted to it. And we have to create a ecosystem and environment where a middle class boy and girl in an urban area, to a question as to what do you want to do when you grow up, he should be able to answer that I want to do farming. Secondly, our entire agriculture farming, especially from the policy perspective, as also from the political dimensions and the demands coming from the grassroots, is infusion of direct cash subsidies. The entire focus has been on that. We have to clearly distinguish between investment and subsidies. And when we talk in terms of investment in agriculture, this investment again should be on business principles. This much I am investing and how much is the return I am going to get. Thirdly, agriculture, the entire agriculture is to be viewed as a one integrated food production sector, not merely this is crop, this is fish, this is poultry, this is that. This whole thing has to converge into one. You see, Viksit Bharat also very attractively talks about 4 pillars, and one of the pillars is Kisan. And if you see the other 3 pillars, Yuva, Mahila, and Garib, they also by and large are integrated into Kisan. But how to ensure convergence between all of them so that we move together towards Viksit Bharat is a challenge. And that is what initially when I mentioned about livestock, I'm sure in any of the agriculture sector, you never even once make a mention of livestock. Even the structure of this panel discussion did not have anything on livestock. And why I keep repeatedly mentioning about that is future of agriculture in terms of growth, future of food in terms of nutritional and protein security, which Abhay mentioned, will be in primarily driven by the livestock and fisheries sector. So this is what how I view is that agriculture politically it is a big challenge. It has to wean away from subsidies as we view them now. My case is not that we should do away with subsidies. Wean away subsidies which are making the agriculture and the farmer dependent upon them, and replaces with investment which is giving return, and run agriculture business, purely on business principles. Now there was, secondly, again our obsession with quantities. I also mentioned initially that we are the top in production in almost all the commodities. Whenever we mention in terms of our achievements in agriculture or production, we say this much ton of wheat last year, this much ton, this much is the growth. These 250 million tons of milk last year was this much growth. We should talk in terms of value we have generated and growth in terms of the value that agriculture commodity has generated, both in monetary terms as also in the nutrition terms. So this is what my initial thoughts on the subject are.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to add here that the kind of work which we do, basically, I come from ICRISAT, where our ethos are to promote dryland agriculture. Globally, like dryland agriculture contributes to roughly around 50% of global agriculture. We work a lot around productivity, sir, and since we focus mainly on resilient crops like millet and pulses and groundnut, etc. Very recently, we come up a couple of these crops like PGNP, climate tolerant and heat resistant variety in that. So yes, there is a need for that. We do work a lot around improving the nutrition, right? So we have to see we have to come up with crops which are climate resilient, which are having more nutrient content in that, and it has to go to the farmer, right? And it has to be adopted by the farmer. So we have to work on all these fronts. Yeah, very absolutely correct. And in fact, no doubt that livestock becomes a integral part of entire agriculture, and we cannot work on in silos and boxes, right? So my question to you, Simon, is that how you since Bayer has been working a lot around precision agriculture, right, and AI-driven solutions and technologies. So according to you, um, what Bayer has done, or what are the steps which we can take so to promote all these technologies to farmers so that they can adopt these technologies. So can you come up with some of the examples around these?
I'll be happy to do that, but first of all, I need to give a big respect, and I think everybody should give a bit of applause to Tarun here. Because honestly speaking, what he said is so important. Farming is a business, and it already is, by the way, today. And this is where your question actually is a common question, but it's the wrong way around. And I think Shashank was mentioning it as well. Indian farmers will pay for technology if they see value in it, finished, right? And the biggest example was the adoption of BT cotton. When BG2 came into the country, farmers were willing to pay 4 times what they paid before for their seeds. And you were referring to the replacement rates. We are today, even on rice, probably above 50%, which means farmers every second year buy new rice seeds, right? So some of the old assumptions that technology is too expensive and farmers don't need, they need lower input costs, doesn't hold any longer. The thing is, it needs to be profitable for them, right? And where we need to move a little bit is to say, hey, what's happening around the world, right? I very much also like the discussion around subsidies versus, right? A lot of farmers around the world are actually compensated for ecological services. Now, if you say you want to have regenerative agriculture in India, you want to have better soils, you should incentivize farmers to move to direct seeded rice. Yeah? And that's a little bit where we have an issue that the incentive systems don't necessarily always align. We can today have carbon markets come up in India which pay farmers to emit less methane, which will help in the livestock industry as well, right? So where is the value add over and above the calories you produce? How do you compensate a farmer for producing nutritious food instead of just calories? Yeah. So that's a little bit where I think, again, when we look at Viksit Bharat and where do we want to be in 2047 as this country, these are the interventions which would make a lot more sense than just talking about direct benefit transfer to people which potentially even aren't farming any longer.
Yeah, so you mean to say that we need to find out ways where we can incentivize the farmer so that he is promoted to adopt those technologies, right? So we need to find out ways, and I truly agree with you that there should be ways where if we want him to move away from adopting something, then what is the incentive there? So we definitely need to figure out. I know it is not easy actually to move away from subsidies and find a model where we can actually incentivize the farmers. But definitely, yeah, it is very important and critical. Now, I would like to come to Abhay, and I would like to ask you that you come from food processing industry. Like, what should be the mix of production, processing, and distribution strategies which are needed actually to provide affordable solutions to both urban as well as rural consumers. So what according to you those are the things, right?
Yeah. So, two things I would like to build on. I think one, and to this point, I think, for agriculture and more importantly, I think livestock, then to be treated as business, I think. So, there is a successful example of what has happened in the dairy industry, I think. So, today, if you see in India, compared to 2, 3 decades back, when only, let's say, a white milk and predominant share was this, I think most of the company, there are many listed company in the space, you see their proportion of revenue of the business that comes from value added products, it's 30, 40%. I'll use personal example. So I come from very different background. Last 3 years back was when I first entered this, so to say, the agri business or integrated value chain. And those are the things that will make a difference. The integrated value chain from production to the consumer. So when I joined, I went to one of the farms. So at Godrej, we have many of these contract farms in the poultry integrated space. One farmer, and he showed me with great pride, he's been our farmer for about close to 2 decades. He had some about 10 odd acres of land on which he was doing conventional crops and agriculture, but he said 2 sheds of poultry which he invested long back were paying for, and he showed me that the from where he was living to the house that he constructed, just based on the income stability and guarantee he was generating from contract farming for Godrej. And what Godrej then, and this is not just about the company, but this integrated value chain, then what it does is takes that livestock, takes it into processing in one of the, let's say, processing facilities, and converts it into brand. And that whole value addition is then what creates, I think, in the whole chain, I think, massive value, more income for the farmer, and I think overall will also over time will get treated as a business and create the productivity that's needed. So I think the operative word here is how do you integrate value chains and allow, and this is same thing is happening in many other places. So I think Tarunji, and he was the architect of that shrimp, how shrimp industry in India became that very large export sort of an industry. And I think the next opportunity there is to create that same value in domestic market through value addition. So I think there are these success stories where these kind of integrated value chains and companies can make a difference and create those value for the farmer as well.
Uh, Thank you. Right. So, Pranavji, since you had Gujarat agro infrastructure food park, and you have a vast experience in that field. So, I would like to ask you the question like, what are the major infrastructure investment and value chain partnerships which you think are important to reduce or cut post-harvest losses and increase the overall productivity? So,
So the fundamental requirement for reducing post-harvest losses is firstly to understand what really are the post-harvest losses. Do we actually lose 30% or 35% of the produce, or there is a value loss? So according to me, with the population size we have, it's more of a value loss than a physical loss of produce. Of course, there is almost 20% of physical loss, but beyond that, and the keyword is to produce a value chain. In fact, the concept of food park is a hub and spoke model where they want creating of a value chain. So you go from farm to fork, you do everything. So you actually get the material, get it aggregated, get it to the farm, sort and grade it, use the processable material in your system, and sell the best of the product to the market. So one, the farmer gets greater value for a produce which is not considered table worthy. That is one. Number two, there's also preservation facilities, so the farmer can take a slight amount of breath before having to sell in a glut situation. Three, processing facilities are available. And for newcomers, it is very important to have a plug and play facility in the food park. Like, you just come, and everywhere else you'll take about 24 months to set up shop. Here you can do it within 12 months and start your business immediately. And initial investments are pretty low. So I think this is a great intervention. Somehow, because a lot of food parks were taking 5 to 6 years, but the government thought it should be done in 2.5 years. So the food park uh, scheme has taken a breather. But I would want that more and more food parks come, because right now there are maximum 2 food parks per state. But unless and until they do a proper value chain, it's not going to work. Single point interventions will never support agriculture. One, because you need scale, and then only it makes commercial sense. And two, I think greater intervention, till the point of time it comes, we are not really going to see any results, because with 41 mega food parks in a country of 140 crores, if we say we need to change the world, it's not going to happen. We need probably 4,000 of them.
So you have answered my previous question, right?
Yeah.
So to reach 1 trillion, we need more food parks in next.
So we need clusters in any
Yeah.
form. It may be a food park, or it may be a cluster, or it may be a small agriculture produce system. Government has promoted some of those too. But ultimately, a cluster approach is a must, because India is a land of entrepreneurs. And unless you support entrepreneurs to get into a new business, it's not going to work. Food processing is not cheap. It's a very expensive industry if you try to do it alone. One, in terms of the infrastructure itself, and two, in terms of the marketing costs. So there has to be sufficient support to do that. And it's an investment, as rightly said, it's not a cost. Now, the government has to change the mindset from feeling that they are incurring a cost to a fact that they are doing an investment, and that this investment can only elevate the farmers. We were talking of doubling the farmers' income 10 years ago. It has now doubled, probably because the value of currency has gone half. But otherwise, it's very difficult to double. And sir is here from government side, so he would understand. Doing that requires real intervention and consistent policy approach. I hope they do it.
Yeah, absolutely right. So from our experience, what I can say that we have, since we being a not-for-profit entity, but we do a lot of these kind of interventions on the ground as well. So what we have done in couple of places as a pilot, where we focus on setting up of primary processing centers at cluster level, and then we are connecting them with the secondary processing center largely, introducing the resilient crops in that geography with the right kind of crops, and then converting them into value-added products. And we have seen there is a significant increase in the value per kg value realization for the farmer, both in terms of primary produce as well as processed food as well. So thank you, sir. So now I will come back to you, Sashank.
Can I
right?
just intervene there?
Yeah.
And I think there is also a need to focus on individual geographies and individual crops. Right now, the food parks are all very similar model, but the model has to be a bit more different to every geography. And what has happened is few of the food parks have failed. So the concept is that once something fails, we should not back it. Is the other way around. It's like the Indian cricket team. Now they decide that he's going to play 10 matches, whether he fails or doesn't. And that's why he starts hitting sixes on ball one. If you want sixes, you need to back. That's it.
So I think then what you mean to say is that we should have a proper value chain analysis of that cluster, and then we should come up with the right kind of processing units over there. Thank you, sir. So Sashank, you have been into this space for almost, I think now 2 decades, or almost that, right? No? So anyways, but the thing
I'm
is
not
that you
that
guys,
old.
but you guys have done a lot of work around digital intervention uh, and platform through Dehat platform and all, and your Dehat centers, etc. So according to you, what are the learnings from there, where Dehat has done the intervention, and it is actually the technologies which you are promoting has helped in farmers to de-risk his businesses and improve the overall productivity or profitability of the farmer? Can you share your experience in that? Yeah.
So, I think, yes, we always believe very strongly in the technology, and primarily because, again, take as a great enabler or leveler or scaler, whatever you say. With respect to time, one thing what we experienced and learned that because of technology, scale is possible, and uh, and building trust with the stakeholder, it becomes easier. As simple as that, right? Since the question is specific to de-risking, simple example like uh, in theory, a very simple product like weather parametric insurance for farmers, right? Simple intervention, right? Like for example, very soon we'll see a news that India is going to see hottest ever March, right? Very soon it will come in our news, and this is a time which is the fruiting time for wheat, which is not good for yield. Simple solution is that, let's say, if the soil temperature goes beyond 40 degrees Celsius, can we have an insurance? Everyone knows that yes, it's possible, but because of technology, all those data basically we could get on the table at the right point of time because of technology, and hence with that data we could create the trust with the stakeholder, which is the reinsurer or the insurance company, and at the same time again the closure of the process for the farmer. And then last not the least, because of the technology, all these things would happen at the scale. This is just an example, that so that key, if let's say the lat long is there, if the moment temperature goes beyond 40-degree, so called the insurance is auto claimed, auto processed, auto settled, as simple as that, right? And that too with, let's say, 500,000 farmers roughly. All these things we could do. I mean, this specific product we could scale up within 2 years time, which is essentially within just two cropping cycle. I can go on and on, but these are the examples what we have learned, that that bundling becomes easier, and then taking your innovation at a scale becomes easier, as simple as that. The good part is that with the improved penetration of technology, data, mobile, all those things, these things are becoming easier and easier and motivating, I think, all of us to think more in this direction, not just for one specific problem statement, what I just mentioned, right? Anything, whether it's traceability, whether it's anything. For example, on our platform, every month we experience almost 5 million digital sessions of farmers, right? Imagine. And then that gives us information that that what specific pest problem farmers are actually asking about, right? So it's not a standalone data point for us, right? I mean, that motivates that, okay, all right, like what all crop protection is going to be used in that geography and all those things. I can go on and on, but I think you mentioned about the de-risking. So the question is that, final answer is that because of technology, because of data, we always try to bring the predictability, which is the, I think, which is the crux of the sector.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, yeah, insurance plays a very important role, and it helps farmers to actually prevent from the losses, or cover up some of their losses. And also, I think this data can also help them to actually decide which crop to go ahead with, and probably even if it is wheat, then what variety we should choose for, or what duration has to be there, or maybe we can even change the sowing time to do that.
Also the harvesting,
Yeah.
right? Every day we aggregate 10,000 metric ton of produce every day, but it's not like that. Once the harvest is done, then we go for the buyer hunting. That's not that. Just because of data, again, we have forecast that how much yield is likely to be aggregated from that pin code, and based on that information itself, basically we aggregate demand. So let's say for next 45 days, millions of tons of order I have already aggregated for which crop will get harvested over the next few weeks or so. So number of things, right? Similarly on the input side, what are the demand, what are the exact input likely to be demanded, right? So similarly on the output side, so all these things eventually are happening largely because of the preempting the things, right? Which is bringing the predictability, and hence eventually reducing the risk for everyone, whether it's the buyers of the off takers or the farmers as the sellers or anything for that.
So actually, I think it helps in decision-making process. Yeah. So Tarunji, very important question, right, for all of us. Agri exports, right? So I think it is very important piece if we want to reach to 1 trillion economy. According to you, sir, what are the few important bottlenecks in Indian agri export, and how we can overcome that, or what according to you you feel that steps should be taken to promote agri export? Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'll be in a position to answer your question directly. Let me give a different perspective to this. And this is something which I have been speaking in every such discussion or forum. Number one, why are we obsessed with exports? Why do we export? Because if we feel that the export of our commodity or a product is going to give us much better and greater value, or maybe as a geopolitical tool, we'll not get into the second part of it. I just reminded when Abhay was mentioning about shrimp, I'll just briefly tell you that in the last 1 decade, India emerged as the biggest shrimp exporter of the world. Till about 2 years back, we were the biggest. Now we have been relegated to second position. However, like it's the seeding in tennis, the top seed and second seed, they keep interchanging. So sometimes we are number one, now we are number two. But recently, when those unreasonable and erratic tariff regime from the United States came, suddenly the shrimp industry was in doldrums and panic spread because our biggest market was United States of America. And we have been the number one exporter to America for more than a decade now. Where do we sell our shrimp? Suddenly they woke up, and this is something I have been telling shrimp industry for more than a decade now, that please develop domestic markets. Now you all have smartphones. You can type on the smartphone right now price of Indian shrimp in the retail market of New York and price of shrimp in the retail market of Delhi. Delhi would be 4 times higher than New York. We are the biggest consumer base in the world, and we are the most rapidly growing middle classes in the world. So, number one, export is one of the methodologies and one of the methods of selling your product. So, don't make export as the end in itself, it is one of the means. Secondly, if we have to compete globally in the export markets, especially when it comes to a product which is food, we have to ensure that our product is of the highest integrity and the best of nutrition. Now, we mentioned that we are the biggest milk producer of the world, and we have been the biggest for the last 1 or 2 decades. And the number two milk producer in the world is United States, who is not even half of ours. The entire European Union or the entire Europe put together does not produce milk which is very close to ours. Still, we are not able to sell our milk outside India because our milk does not match the quality and the nutritional parameters and the safety standards which the so only way you can be globally competitive in exports, number one, is integrity of your food product, which is food. Secondly, you have to look at your own systems. Again, Abhay, recently shrimp producers were telling us that for days, sometimes months together, our containers are lying in the ports because the EIC has not been able to inspect. Now imagine fish. No matter how good your cold storage is and how good your cold chain is, still the moment it comes out of water, its value starts coming down. If your container of fish is lying in your port for days, not even days, for weeks and months together. So more than that is our own, we have to look inwards and improve and facilitate our systems and create that ecosystem where these entrepreneurs capturing export markets develop. So this is what my take in. But lastly, I'll say, please look at your own domestic market. Your domestic market is much bigger than the export markets, and don't distinguish between the quality of the product which you export and the quality of the product which you supply in the domestic market. Today, if you want shrimp in Delhi, in USA, you can go to the supermarket and pick up shrimp. But if you want shrimp in Delhi, probably you'll not get it anywhere. You'll have to go to these online platforms that they'll say that you have to order 24 hours prior to your requirement. So we are sending fresh shrimp from Vizag to New York or Washington, but we are not able to send fresh shrimp from Vizag to Delhi. So that is my take on the subject.
So you mean to say that we have our own domestic market big enough actually to offer you the same price, provided we provide them the similar kind of material, right? So, and why there is a differentiation between the domestic consumer and international consumer, right? So we are also equally have the right to get the same kind of produce here. Yeah, so I think yeah, our consumers are also now ready to pay that price, and we should focus there as well. Thank you, sir, and for highlighting the challenges in the supply chain. So if we can work around that, definitely our realization will significantly go up. Simon, now my question to you is like bear, right? So the moment bear comes, so precision agriculture, digital technologies, and ag innovation comes into our mind. So from your experience in bear, can you just uh, make the audience aware some of the success stories where your technologies have helped in significantly improving the profitability of the farmers and how it has happened? So can any success story you can share with us today?
Yes, I'd love to, but what I also need to admit, and I think Shashank will second that, is we need scale. This country is the country that can offer so much scale, and often we tend to operate at the fringes, right? So we also work with insurance schemes. Absolutely, you're doing temperature. We're actually doing moisture, right? Which is fantastic, and farmers are happy to get something out of it. The thing is just with 140 million farmers, scale is what makes a difference for the country. And I think we are at an inflection point here. Obviously, it started with mobile phones, but when you look at AI, what is AI good at? It's dealing with tons and tons of data. We have 140 million farmers which take very specific decisions every day on a farm, and they create a lot of data, and nobody can help them because it's just also not profitable to intervene with an individual farmer in the country, right? So where my focus at this point lies is really to say, let's identify something which is really and truly scalable, because that's what makes a difference for the country. Yeah. And it goes all the way from, yes, using satellite data, going into literally farm-specific recommendations on which agronomic interventions are important. But where I still have a strong belief is we need to see more consolidation of farming happening in the country, right? While we don't get consolidation of land ownership, I don't believe this will happen. The consolidation of farming must move forward, and that is something odd. We have areas of the country where there's literally not one landowner even living there any longer. They are renting out their land, and people are actually starting to consolidate the farming, but they are not recognized as farmers. They are not the ones who get the benefits of being a farmer. And that's a little bit where, again, we need to understand how the country is moving forward. We can say FPO 150 times, but we need to see how do we make an FPO work. Yeah? And if two brothers cannot agree on, let's say, how to go forward with a business, how do you expect 200 farmers who have the same ownership in one company to take a unanimous decision on what to grow and how to do the intervention? And that's a little bit where digital can help, and where obviously our focus is in, and where I believe scalability must come in the next couple of years.
Okay, so collective farming or aggregation model is the one piece. I think we have tried to address that as a country, and a lot of thirst has gone into promoting FPOs. But we, since all of us here, a lot of us are here working on the ground, and we are seeing a lot of challenges, especially on execution level and the effectiveness of creation of all these enterprises. So still there is a lot of area of improvement required. We need to find out ways, right? Yes, I agree with you. Now, Abhay, my question to you. There has been a lot of, in this current era of social media, right? There are a lot of perception which are created around processed food, right? About their goodness or about their nutrition. And you being coming from one of the leading large FMCG company, largely working in processed food and all. So how do you see this? Whether it is a challenge, whether it is a threat, or whether it is an opportunity, and how to sensitize consumers around the benefits of processed food? Can you throw some light on that? Yeah.
Sure, sure. But first, I would, because it's such an interesting point which Tarunji had brought in about the shrimp, the pricing dynamics, and the availability. I just want to spend about a minute there, because we are one of the brands who now very recently got into selling frozen shrimp in domestic market. So for the last six, and this tells you some of the, let's say, where the opportunity also lies. So what he was describing, that there was 6, 7, 8 months, there was this pain. We were going from number one position to number two position. The containers were stuck. we also thought that this should be an opportunity now to have a better conversation with some of the suppliers and provide and we were very willing to have conversations saying that you know, why don't you give us the high quality stuff? But they wanted to engage, no, this is for exports, this is for domestic. And we said, why don't you give us that at an accessible price? Let's sort of partner together, because we have the distribution network. We are one of those who sell on some of these online platforms. And let's sort of create that domestic demand. You fuel the demand because we make the product accessible. But for the last 6-7 months, in spite of us knowing that they had the stocks, they had the opportunity, but we could not bring the prices down. Yes, yes. So that's one of the things I think which this, how do we sort of bring this thinking that you know, ultimately our domestic markets are big, and the only way to make them sort of scale is by providing accessible, high quality products. And that partly also links to, you know, from a consumer perception of processed food. See, until the time through some of the technology, like for example, we engage in this whole IQF based product, etc., which preserves the nutrition better, which overall as a technology, I think preserves the nutrition better. If we are able to sort of communicate this effectively to the consumer, because there are a lot of myths around it. Like earlier, there were these campaigns, you know, that were run very successfully about milk together as an industry, eggs, Sunday ho ya Monday roj khao ande, I think. So some of those in the food processing, that myth busting has to happen, because consumer today is informed but overwhelmed. So I think a lot of, in this whole era of social media, WhatsApp, I think a lot of information that is getting across to the consumer is not necessarily all right or all accurate, I think. And what is needed is more transparency. I think that is definitely sort of the need of the hour, but also in some senses better dissemination of information from credible sources, so that instead of people, you know, who are not qualified enough to comment and then sort of coming on social media, and you know, because that's not going to help the industry. So I think working, and that's one of the policy initiatives that the government could look into, is sort of on technologies that are reliable, that help nutrition, that helps nutrition security. How do we run those credible communication and consumer awareness programs, which will then, because the real demand, unless it comes from consumer, you're not going to see processing of anything multiply. So that, to my mind, is the biggest seen from a consumer's point of view.
So consumers are confused, right? So whether they should follow whatever is coming on social media blindly, or they where to go and check back, right? So I think there has to be a place where we can go back, cross verify, check. So those kind of steps are also required. Yeah. So my question to Pranav ji, to you now, I think we are more or less close to the session now, but so what steps you think as a government we should take, especially in terms of food parks, so that we can become globally competitive, right?
So, if you're talking about exports, there are 2 or 3 very important things which need government's consideration, which has not actually been the focus. One has to focus on processable variety of crops. I mean, we have wastage, but not all the crops that we produce can be processed. So that is something which is very critical. You see the example of potato in Gujarat, how successful it has been, because they group processable kind of, you know. Similarly for tomato, it's very important to grow a particular kind of tomato if you want the right result. So that's not happening, and government's major focus, instead of just asking to stop wastage, has to be on taking all farmer leaders in confidence, farmers in confidence, and make them do processable crops. That is one. Number two, we cannot have, again, there has to be a complete ecosystem for export. So the first interventions that can come from mega food parks or from food clusters is that some of the facilities have to be available as a public property. not, owned. Suppose somebody wants to export, the biggest challenge is, credible laboratory testing. But if somebody tries to push a new product, he'll spend lot of lakhs and lakhs of rupees on testing. If a more concentrated, cheaper option is available through government support, they are trying their best in giving away grants to do laboratories. But there has to be a more controlled system where the laboratory can't charge anything that they want. This is something where government intervention is necessary. Although government is trying to pull out of businesses in most of the cases, uh, there are so many areas uh, required for even logistics, the connectivity to ports or airports. These are areas where government intervention is a must. Yes, I mean, people like Adanis have succeeded in a big way in managing their logistics, but not every small player can do that, and that's where the support has to come. So essentially, it's the small player, support that is important in India. Just like smallholder farmers. I mean, we are discussing so many things, but unless, as Simon rightly said, unless we are able to, really scale up, and probably that's why we have a gentleman sitting in the head of the cooperative department who's trying hard to repeat the Gujarat model of dairy into farming, and hopefully that will come true. Then we should have a really transformed economy in terms of agriculture. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would say.
I agree with you that the lab infrastructure for reports and all, uh, credible lab and the testing is not cheap, right? So I think we need to have more infrastructure on that front as well. I will come to Sashank. India is a pretty huge country, and you are operating to almost, let's say, 14, 15 states by now. And what, according to you, as an agri startup, uh, what are the challenges which you have faced in your journey? Actually, especially in terms of adoption of these technologies and platform at the last mile connectivity with the farmers, right? So how you are able to manage that adoption of those technologies because of different geographies, different literacy level, income level, farmer. So how you are going to see that, and what are the challenges you faced in this process or journey?
Challenges on
Adoption of
digital adoption.
digital adoption of technologies, last mile adoption. Yeah.
So, I think one obvious answer is the uh, is the geodiversity, right? And also agri diversity. Forget about state. Within a district, you go from one village to another. Soil texture is different, right? And then the soil history is different. And then there, as a, let's say, as an agri-tech solution, if you aspire to bring personalized, regionalized solution, so then it requires lot of data set history, and huge effort. I can again go on and on. Same disease of any crop, maybe let's say thrips in Chile for that matter, would have 10 different name. Forget about India, within state of Uttar Pradesh, right from Banji to Banjua to whatever it is. So so but farmers, similar to any other consumer, they require customized solution, right? So obviously, then let's say, and here I'm just talking about only advisory, right? And why? Because advisory is a gateway to the farmer when it comes to digital adoption, because that's the piece of information. So yeah, so initially, again, our advisory used to be district specific, but then we faced a lot of challenge in terms of adoption. But with respect to time, again, as a function of time, the day or the way how we kept going deeper into deeper, which is not just like customized at a block level, but then at a village level, then at a land parcel level, right? And also, so then obviously the adoption was the outcome, right? How did we do that? So then one is building our own LLMs, building our own agents, and then also the concoction of different data sets, spatial data, transactional data, right? Because same farmer, they are buying inputs, they are selling output, and then also and then also behavioral data, right? So then, as a combination of transactional, spatial, behavioral, all these data, so basically again we could train, and then eventually as an outcome made our solution very very personalized, so that at a first glance farmers get a sense and get an impression कि उनको information जहाँ से आ रही है वो उन्हें जानते हैं, right? I mean, they don't think that that this information is coming from a scientist or from a global expert for that matter. They understand कि no, I think they know about us because this is so regionalized, and then they start opening up. So as simple as that. So it's like again, it's a constant exercise. It's not like that that we have reached to the final destination, but again, that's the mindset that how more personalized, regionalized, basically we can be, and then I think that's largely on the adoption side.
So
Yeah.
you mean to say that in this process you have learned that how to convince a farmer that we know you well, right? So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also thinking from their perspective, right? Like some mentioned about tomatoes, you were mentioning about export for that matter, right? So like we never expect farmer to bring any behavioral change on day zero itself, right? And firstly, I think we just want to be part of their value chain. And let's say whatever conventional crop they are growing, whether it's rice or wheat, we start adding some value in those crops. The beauty is that they're like just one cycle, one season, right? I mean, you show them benefits. Ki even for conventional crop like wheat and rice, basically we helped you to reduce your input cost. We could buy your crop. Then uske baad to aap jo bolo wo karte. So and then their loyalty is lifetime. That's a good part. So the customer acquisition is difficult, but retention is easier. All I would say.
We should work more around retention of those customers rather than every day going and finding a new
The
farmer.
farmer-centric approach, one size fits all, doesn't work here.
Yeah.
All. I think that's the only thing what we have learned.
I agree with you, right? So, so we have also seen in the past wherever in fact, if you were asked my experience, so wherever we have worked with the farmers, we have not tried to force any decision on him, right? So we have to first tell him whatever he is doing, how we can add value to it, and once he knows that you are there to help him out, then probably he will listen to you, right?
Yeah, and the challenge is the same, right?
Yeah.
Because potato farmer in Rajkot is entirely different from potato farmer in Aligarh, right? So that's where I think for any company, for any innovation, it's not like that. That if you have cracked one crop, one cluster, then basically the same success you are going to replicate at other locations. So that's the challenge, but that's the fun part too.
Yes. So thank you all. Yeah, it was wonderful and fruitful discussion, and I believe that the audience must have also enjoyed it. S- Thanks a lot. You have been a wonderful audience, and I know this was the last session probably, or last but one, right? On a closing note, I would just like quickly to ask all of you, in one word or one sentence, what would be your takeaway in terms of how to reach that milestone of Viksit Bharat 1 trillion economy by 2047? Yeah, sir.
No, there's not one takeaway. I am taking away something or the other from each and every one of them. So, just the last point, I think how you communicate is very important. You see, we can have any number of technologies or scientific intervention strategies, policies. How do you actually communicate with your customer, the farmer, and communicate it as one of them rather than from a distance? And lastly, I think coming from this technology and digitalization and AI, you see, agriculture sector would move forward if we do not, while making it science based, do not neglect or ignore the traditional wisdom and knowledge of the farmer. So there has to be a blend of modern science with traditional knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, what amazes me always is we know what needs to be done. Yeah, and I fundamentally believe just what I heard here, what we discussed about during this hour, would get us a huge step forward if it were just simply implemented. So implementation is going to be key. And as I say, my North Star at this point is Viksit Bharat is such a powerful aspiration for the country that I hope we will do the right things and potentially also leave a couple of vested interests aside.
So obviously we are talking about a farm to fork in which there is on one end the farmer or the producer and other end the consumer. I think, to my mind, both they are, to what we heard also, they are wise, they have wisdom, they have knowledge, they know what they're dealing with. I think the right sort of value addition by connecting them effectively, and that execution of connecting them effectively is something that the focus should remain on, whether it comes via communication, more education, better awareness. But that, I think, is the piece which is most important.
So I am talking from the point of view of the smallholder farmer, because that's the most difficult, cog of the wheel. So I have coined a word, like our honorable PM always coins great words, and we did the Sampada Yojana. So we need to do a Samarth Yojana now. Samarth is making the farmer competent and capable, the smallholder. So his biggest challenge is that his greatest joy of great output is his greatest sorrow, because then there is a glut and the prices drop and he doesn't have money to survive. So he has to sell. So I think this policy has to give him a right to storage. Every farmer has to have right to storage, and then immediate finance on an automatic basis with technology. 70% or 65%, whatever the government decides, money should go to him so he can survive for the next 3 months or next 2 months, till which he can wait and get the right price. Is something like this we able to do? So I have coined the word with, it's storage and marketing reforms for transformation and for, harvest management. If you are able to do that, then I think we have won the game. This is what I can say.
I think the the timeline goal of Viksit Bharat is what, for 2047. I think in agri context, yeah, in agri context, we can prepone it by 10 years minimum. I think I would just say just one word, and that is convergence. The good part is कि हम बातें तो कर रहे हैं, and the good part is कि हम सब एक ही बातें कर रहे हैं. Whether it's state government, whether it's central government, whether it's MNC, whether it's domestic, whether it's corporate, everyone is talking about the same thing. But I think सब अपने अपने रास्ते चल रहे हैं, right? We are just trying to do the same thing in our own way, right? I mean, it's about agri stack. There is a central government agri stack, and then you go to state level. Every state government is spending millions and millions in building their own state agri stack. This is just an example, right? We talk about insurance. Every state government has its own insurance program, right? So I think my thought process would be just the convergence, and convergence, so that, like, whoever is strong in whichever area, leveraging their strength, we are reinventing the wheel. Lot of repetition of the work is happening. Sir mentioned about food park. Let's say if there is one successful food park, why there is a need, let's say state like Bihar or West Bengal to spend 8 months just to design their food park policy? अरे जाओ यार, जाके देखो, उसको सेम अडॉप्ट कर लो, हम सेम देश की बात कर रहे हैं. तो आई थिंक इफ इज द क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट विकसित भारत, not विकसित states, I think convergence is the thing what is needed. The good part is that time is now, because everyone is resonating. Everyone is talking the same thing. Nobody is saying that no, this is not needed, right? What has to be done, everything, everyone is literally bang on. But it's just that, that people are building their own thesis, people are building their own playbook, playground. It's taking too much time. So in my view, I think it can be preponed by 10 years minimum, provided we converge towards the common goal of Viksit Bharat, sir.
We will be 2 trillion plus
मुझे
by
लग रहा था
2040.
कि why you are quoting 1 trillion again?
1 trillion for
Back of the
agriculture.
mind,
We are
I
for
know.
agriculture.
Yeah, no, still only for agri. Why only
Yeah.
you are quoting 1 trillion? That too.
So
I
I think,
was
sir, we need to
thinking
have
back-
another policy draft with revised numbers. Thank you, guys. You have been a wonderful audience. Yeah, thank you.
Just aside, for 35 years in government, for 35 years, have heard this word convergence, convergence. I retired, but I never saw it happen.
Sir,
We are
just
doing convergence.
sir, just for your thing, like say if somebody has to go and let's say source the produce, right? There is a licensing requirement at the district level. If somebody has to go to distribute input for seed CPCN, there is a licensing requirement, 3 different license requirement at the district level. Imagine if you are operating in 130 districts, how much time we have wasted just to get the license.
Yeah. Yeah, there can be a single license, right? Thank you, thank you. Yeah.
No, no. But anyways, I think kudos to the moderator. He asked about challenges to everyone, and still, like, we managed to end the panel within 16 minutes.
Applause. Thank you so much to all our panelists, our moderator. I invite you all to please get together for a group photograph. Thank you. What a wonderful, wonderful session we have just seen. Very, very engaging session.